All right, so just making sure I'm taping. I am. Okay, so this is going to be. Where are we going to pull up a chair for this one? This is going to be your sketch. You're going to do this 3 times. The requirement is you're going to make a 5 by 7 inch sketch. So you want a 5 by 7 inch frame. So what I'm doing right now is this is a piece of printing paper, which is 11 by 8.5. Half of 11 is 5.5. Actually, I'm just going to measure here. I know this sounds like a lot of preparation for something that's just a sketch, but it does help in the end. So what I do is I just take 2 dots, connect them. That divided this space in half. 5.5, 5.5 equals 11. Same thing in this direction. This should be 8.5 inches. So half of 8.5 is 4.25. So just measure 4.25. 4.25. And then you're going to connect those 2 dots. I always find it easier to find the center and work your way out. So what I'm going to do now is, since this frame is going to be 7 high, 5 wide, so 7 up. So what I do, half of 7 is 3.5. I'm putting the 3.5 mark right on the center line. I'm going to measure, or I'm going to go up to where it begins. Now remember, on some rulers, start at the beginning of the ruler, and some rulers start at the beginning of the line. So see what your ruler does. And then I'm marked off the 7. So I'm lining up again at 3.5, mark off the 7. And then I mark off the beginning, and then I connect them. I like to turn the ruler over when I connect the lines for 2 reasons. One reason, it slides easy because I'm trying to line those 2 points up, and I need it to slide. And it's a low profile. Now, if your ruler doesn't have a back, cork back, it's not a big deal. And so this direction is going to be 5. So half of 5 is 2.5. 2.5 of, half of 5 is 2.5. And so I'm hitting the 5, and I'm also hitting the 1. And I'll do it down here as well. And I'm just putting that half line right on the line that exists, 5.5. I use this system. I also teach color and design. I teach 2D design, and we usually have large boards, illustration boards that we put designs on, and this is the same method I use, and it's just a better approach for starting in the center and working your way out. So this is 5 by 7 inches. It's not huge, it's not small. And what you're going to do now is you're going to put a vanishing point out here. And again, you're going to make 3 separate sketches. So I just erased those middle lines just so I don't get them confused with anything else. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a point here. That's going to be my 3rd point. It can be center, it can be to the right of center, it can be anywhere, it doesn't matter. And then I'm going to make my horizon line. That's why, one reason why I tried to erase this really cleanly, because I just didn't want that to be my horizon line. I'm going to lower my horizon line down here. You can put yours at different areas. I've had students put on diagonal. Doesn't matter. The horizon line is just where the vanishing points, the left and right vanishing point exists. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my right vanishing point here and my left vanishing point here. Now, I'm using my 4H pencil. I do want you to use that pencil. However, it's probably not good in the video in terms of you being able to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to switch my pencil to a softer pencil. I'm going to switch my pencil to a HB. And since these are sketches, you should be using an HB as well. And always keep your pencil sharp. All right, so I put my frame in, I have my horizon line, I have my right vanishing point, I have my left vanishing point, I have my 3rd vanishing point. Now you're gonna make a sketch. Basically, you're just filling the space in, but when you make your sketch, it must be asymmetrical, meaning what is symmetrical? Symmetrical is when things are even on both sides, like my hands, without the pencil, and when you fold them up, they meet perfectly. So that's a symmetrical shape. this is not symmetrical. However, they're still the same on both sides. I want asymmetrical balance. So what's on this side is totally different than what's on this side. However, yet they're balanced or integrated. So you don't really, if you fold this paper in half, it's not going to meet up by any means. And what you don't want to do, you want to stay away from doing this. This is I call it a gutter ball. When students start off in the center and they put something dead center, and it forces you to go on this side and you try to balance it out with something there, and then you go on this side and try to balance it with something there. And you end up with this kind of symmetrical thing, and then you're fighting that symmetry the entire time. So I always recommend start off with a rectangle to the far right side, far left side, top or bottom. And then that will kind of put you in a better position. And I'm going to switch my ruler to this guy because I no longer need my inches. It says inches too, but sometimes they're hard to read. And this is a transparent graph ruler that you have. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill in this space. Fill it in with the large rectangles first. And I already went through my 3-point presentation demonstration, so I'm not going to discuss that. You know what? I'm going to use this line that I had there before, but now it's going in perspective. And I'll use, you know what? I'm going to let this guy go outside of the border. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. And I'm going to draw it too, just so we know it's there, because it's going to help me put my other line in, and then eventually I'll erase that. I want you to go outside of the border, and then eventually you'll just erase the border. But you need to draw the full form so you can run that over to the other vanishing point. Okay, so there's my cube, but it's going to be cropped off. So there's something called an open composition and a closed composition. An open composition is when you, kind of similar to what I'm doing here, where the frame seems like it's cropping off this busy what is it, image or whatever. But a closed composition is when you just have one object in the center, almost like a portrait or something like that. And whenever I give this project out, a lot of students don't go near the border. They try to keep everything contained within the border. They feel like I can't go near the border. I want you to go outside of the border. Another thing I want you to do, I want you to put stuff on top of the horizon line. So, all I'm doing is I'm just filling this with large rectangles, and then I can put smaller rectangles in. Another thing you don't want to do is don't draw little tiny rectangles. You have all this space to fill in. Fill in this space as fast as you can. It's going to make you feel like you're accomplishing more. Another thing to stay away from, don't use the same line all the time from another form. I'm just going to take that line out. You want to kind of stagger. You want the eye to move up and down a little bit. So I'm going to put a point here, and I'm going to connect that down. That's going to be the top of these forms. You might be wondering, are these, do you have to draw these transparent forms? Not yet. You don't have to draw these as if they're transparent. That's going to add a lot more work. Put a line here. For now, just keep them opaque, non-transparent. Now, see how this is on top of the horizon line? I'll end this right here. You can see that it went outside of the border, so that's good. I've broken 2 borders. I want you to break all 4 borders. I've broken outside of 2 borders. This cube could be in front of this cube. This cube could be in front of this cube. I'm not sure yet. Eventually I'll make my decision, and then I'll erase the line. And oh, I do have it. This pencil is very useful for something like this. But say I want to erase this now. There you go. Now it's behind it. Could have erased the other and it would be in front. I'm going to throw another box right here. And when you're putting these in, throw some cubes in front of cubes. Maybe I don't want this one to be that long. Maybe I just want it to be this long. Don't feel if you drew a I say cube, a rectangle here that you can't put something directly in front of it. Absolutely, I want you to do that. That's how you're going to get spatial depth. Once something's in front of something, something else recedes back in space. Now, all my videos are going to be one take, so if I pause awkwardly or stumble on a word, it's part of it. I don't care. There's gonna be a lot of videos. Instead of this going off the side, I think I'm going to end it right here. Why not? So I'm just gonna erase those lines just so I don't confuse myself. Now, is this in front or behind? I'm gonna put it in front. So I'm gonna erase part of this guy behind it. And I'm gonna erase this line that I have here. Doesn't be super clean, but just enough where you can understand it. Now, I'm going to show you a quick little trick, and then I will show you this later on in your how to slice and dice these rectangles up. But watch this. See this rectangle I just drew? I feel like taking a little section out, like right here. I'm just going to take a little section out. And what I'm doing is I'm just subtracting this little kind of like negative space, if you will. Not really kind of, it will be a negative space. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to erase this. Erase this. I'm going to erase this. And this. And I'm going to put the top plane in, which goes to that vanishing point. I'm going to put the bottom plane in, or the other side that goes to this vanishing point. So, that little negative space that I created, what I don't like about it is that it continues this line here and it gets a little confusing. So I'm going to take it out and lower it just a little bit so that negative space is a little bit more obvious. I didn't like how it did that, and you're going to make a lot of changes like this. It just happens, and you make another decision. There we go. I think this looks better because of that negative space is clearly out of sorts. Now, out of the way, but what's nice about this is I had 3 cubes, I subtracted a part of it, and now I have 4. Cool. And now I'm starting to get a variety of scale in terms of small, big, medium, large. And I want to also get a variety of proportion or shape. Like you could have some really small, thin ones. So what if I were to do a really small, thin one right here, just super small, make it this big, and then say if it goes to this vanishing point here, and then it goes to this vanishing point here, and it's only so big. Not credit card thin, but thin. And I don't like how it competes with all these lines here, so I'm just gonna take some of that out, and maybe I was gonna make it really long and fat, but I'm decided against it. And I think I'm just gonna go behind this form, and then I'm gonna take this line out because that was from the old guy, just so you can kind of start to see this. Take this out. So I just threw another rectangle on top of that. Your objective in making a composition, 3 sketches, is to fill in the space. There's more space to be filled in here. There's more space to be filled in here. Don't worry. I'm just going to put a line between here and here. Don't worry about anything out on the other side of that. That's a whole nother ball game, and I'll explain that at another time. Again, don't put anything on here. That's why we put our vanishing points outside, so we can work in this space as much space of this as we can. If the vanishing points were even further out, I could probably hit the whole entire area. Now, because I filled in this space, this takes up so much room. One thing I can do is I can put rectangles in front of it at a smaller scale now. And sorry, I'm just gonna draw while I'm thinking here. And then the other thing is you can try that negative space thing that I was talking about before and just take out a section. And as you can see, I just threw another rectangle there. It's starting to get, there's starting to become a little more variety of rectangles. I'm starting to fill in my space more. There's becoming a sense of spatial depth. This is asymmetrically balanced or becoming asymmetrically balanced. It's not symmetrical, which is good. And I'm kind of just working one side and working the other. And eventually, I'm just gonna erase this line so you can clearly see that. It will come through. Now, I'm erasing my horizon line here. You don't need it in the drawing. All you need is these 2 points. That was just there just so you know where your points are, because it could kind of confuse some things. So again, fill this in more. This I would call maybe 60% complete. I'd work on this a little bit more, adding a lot of little tiny more rectangles and things of that nature. And when I'm finished with this, I'll spend maybe half an hour drawing it or so, work fast, and then I'll start another one. And you're gonna have 3 separate sketches, and you're gonna document these 3 separate images, and you're gonna submit them into Canvas. And one of these, or maybe a combination of 2, is going to be your impetus, your starting point for the main drawing that you're going to draw in 3-point perspective. That's going to be a little larger and it's going to be on drawing paper. Okay, I think that's enough. Have fun.